This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview. Joining us today is Jeff Gao, the CEO and President of Cypherpunk Holdings, listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange with the ticker HODL, I quite like that, and the OTC with the ticker KHRIF. So, hello Jeff, welcome to Stockbox, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Mark. And thank you for having me.
No, thank you very much. It's nice to be talking to another crypto company. Could I ask you, first of all, if you could introduce the company, give us the high-level overview, and tell us really what you're all about?
Sure. So Cypherpunk Holdings is an actively managed crypto investment company listed on the CSE and also the OTC markets in the US. And broadly speaking, we have three lines of effort. The first thing we do is we maintain crypto treasuries. At this point in time, it's mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum. And in addition to hodling those cryptocurrencies, we also deploy them in a manner that ensures that these holdings are risk managed. And we do it through third-party vendors who are ensured that when there are drawdowns that we don't experience as much volatility as that of the underlying index. And then further to that, we also deploy these assets to generate diverse sources of income, again, in a way that is risk managed. And this includes things like staking and liquidity provisioning. Our second line of effort is around private equity, where we identify projects and we engage their founders at the ground level, generally very early on in their seed round, and we work closely with them to ensure that both as investors but also as project partners, to ensure that they remain on track with their milestones so that we can accelerate their growth plans. And thirdly, we have operationalized assets, and what I mean by that is we monetize assets like IPv4 subnets, which we lease out to specific types of clientele, including VPNs and cybersecurity companies. And this is certainly consistent with our privacy narrative, which is one of our focuses. And also we do crypto mining as well, mainly using managed mining services. And we're actively exploring that as a new line of effort in a manner that is also cohesive and consistent with our other blockchain investments.
Okay. So you have three main areas of the business, the treasury, the private equity, and your own operational assets, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to dive a bit deeper into the three areas of the business then. So let's start with the treasuries. What is the strategy here? You've mentioned you hold a number of different cryptos and then you also stake them and you also use it to generate diverse sources of income. So what is the strategy with the treasury then? How are you managing the treasury, considering as well the volatility of cryptos?
Sure. So for a very long time, I guess, crypto funds and companies and the like have been able to simply hodl these asset tokens. And this was as a result of access early on and be able to generate, I guess, alpha off of that. But increasingly so, doing things at that level or solely hodling coins is certainly going to present these types of companies with an existential crisis, because it's very easy to hold these things in your own retail account or in your own wallet. It's not that difficult anymore. So what we do is we identify partners, operators within the crypto space who are able to generate excess return in a risk-managed fashion. And specifically, I'm referring to bespoke hedge funds and certain products that they offer that are consistent and aligned with our thesis and philosophy. And these funds have undergone an extensive due diligence and vetting process, and they also undergo continuous due diligence as well. And that I regularly catch up with their founders to discuss strategy and operational aspects. So we deploy our cryptocurrencies to these funds in a manner that allows us to remain exposed to the underlying factors, either actually or notionally, but also benefit from their arbitrage and hedging strategies, so that there is that diversified income generation function, as well as that risk management function. So that is how we seek to generate excess return for our investors, and also generate income for Cypherpunk overall to cover our operating expenditure.
Okay, so this portfolio is actively managed then, is that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
We don't really see value in simply holding on to things like a pet rock. We need to ensure that everything is put to work.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so then the private equity then, this is, I guess, where you take stakes in companies that are operating in the sector that you feel that there is going to be future value generated from that opportunity. So can you tell us what opportunities there are in this crypto blockchain space that you're looking to capitalize on, and how do you assess how good the investment opportunity is before you go ahead and invest?
Value in the private equity space is a function of many different variables. Some of the more pertinent ones include substance and momentum. So there has to fundamentally be positive economics in that particular project, in that there is a center of production. So for example, if we look at the play to earn sector within the metaverse, where you have crypto games, people from around the world play these games, and as a result of that creative expression, simply in playing the game, it generates value for somebody. So that willingness to play becomes a center of production, and you produce a service through that willingness to play, which connects with a willingness to pay somewhere. So it's the ability to systematically and from a first principles perspective, identify the nexus between those two centers in a project. And if we see that, well, that ticks one box.
Okay.
But there also has to be a momentum aspect to it as well, because that is important for the network effect. That is important for adoption. And then finally, there's more variables than these three, but these are just the top three. Finally, we also ensure that we not necessarily have control, because control is no longer, I guess, the right paradigm and the right way to think about how things operate within a decentralized society as we move into the fourth industrial revolution, but it's more about influence. So to ensure that we can correctly influence and apply the right type of influence on a project, it needs to be a project where we can actively work with the founders from both a capital raising perspective, from a product development perspective, and also from a strategy and advisory perspective, so that we ensure that they're meeting their milestones, that there is constant communication, and that we're actively managing these assets. We don't just simply passively allocate funds to a project and then let it sit there. We work on everything that we invest in.
Okay. I like the idea of the fourth industrial revolution. I think that's maybe the second or third time I've heard that mentioned. I think it's It's a good phrase to be talking about. Can you elaborate on the stakes that you have in private equity?
At this point, nothing beyond what has already been declared in our press releases. As I was telling our investors who joined us on our call yesterday, there's a lot that I would like to say, and it's a shame that at this point I simply cannot say it. But suffice to say, what we have invested in as of late is characteristically different to our declared portfolio of private equity plays.
Okay. Okay, well, let's look at the operational assets then. You've mentioned about privacy being a big part of the technology that you're looking and the business development plan. So can you, first of all, I think, elaborate on what privacy technologies interest you? And then secondly, what are you pursuing? What opportunities, again, are you pursuing in that area?
I consider privacy to be closely related with permissionless and sovereignty of ownership. So to have ownership of your own data, to have ownership over the end-to-end integrity of your communications with the outside world. So from the perspective of our IP monetization, we have a small portfolio at this stage, a small portfolio, but a portfolio nonetheless of IPv4 subnets, /18s and 19s that we lease out to certain clientele. And these clientele operate within the cybersecurity and VPN space. Their business model simply aligns with our thesis. And it just ensures that the types of services that they provide are those that help to enhance the data sovereignty and helps to further the goal of permissionlessness as we move towards the digital economy.
Okay, okay. So where's the focus then for the company? What does the roadmap look like for, let's say, next year, 2022?
Well, we are moving into fundraising season. We are certainly ramping up for that internally, operationally, and then also strategy-wise and from a marketing perspective. There are a lot of ideas in our pipeline, and we want to ensure that these ideas become materialized. And so we've created a plan, or at least a plan is in final stages of formulation, which I will need to communicate to the rest of the team, and we'll need to iterate on that over the holiday break as we head into Q1 2021 or 2022, which essentially outlines where these vectors of investment are going to be, and then to ensure that going forward, the kind of opportunities that we identify are the ones that we can work closely with. And there are a number of conversations in the pipeline that I will need to close. But there's a lot of moving parts here in that these conversations are aligned with our fundraise, and our fundraise is by reciprocation aligned with these conversations. That is basically our purview heading into first half of 2022.
Okay. And can you give at this stage any of the sort of fundamentals or metrics with the company in terms of market capitalization, but also cash flow and return on investments? Is it possible to give investors an idea of the investment case here?
In terms of where they are, it's they're all seed level projects. A lot of these are close to revenue, but most of these are pre-revenue. But in terms of developing a minimum viable product and go to market, all of these projects are within 6 months of go to market.
Okay. Okay, excellent. A final thought, final question for you, Jeff. I'd like to ask you, what do you think gives you the edge in this space in terms of capitalizing and making a home run on some of the projects that you're involved with? What do you think is your edge?
We are small, we are lean, and we are agile. What we lack in absolute advantage, we more than make up for in comparative advantage. We can identify a project and hold it very closely to our chest and take it towards succession. And it goes really back to the Warren Buffett saying, where you can diversify across a bucket, or you can invest in one thing and watch that basket very closely. And that's kind of what we do. We invest in a small subset of projects, but these projects we hold very closely to our chest, and we work on those actively to increase their probability of success given that we actually don't have the bandwidth in terms of capital allocation to do very many projects, we want to ensure that we remain focused and that there is funding available on our end to support them, to take them to the next leg and toward monetization.
Okay. Well, Jeff Gao, the CEO and president of Cypherpunk Holdings, thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you, Mark. I look forward to future engagements with you guys.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.